What's up? What's up? Hey, howdy, hey. So, end of day two, and what a great day. So, first things first, on my day one video, I was a little bit rushed. Only had maybe about 20 minutes to record a video. So, thank you to everyone who pointed out that my bed was a little messy and that there was something random on the chair behind me, especially my wife, Amy. She pointed that out pretty quickly. So, I took some time today, got that squared away, and so we're feeling much better. I'm a little more relaxed. I've got a little more time to talk. So the first presenter out at day two at Network Field Day 28 was NetBeez. And I've always seen NetBeez. I've been aware of NetBeez, but this was the first time that I actually got to see their platform in action. And I was just absolutely blown away at what they have baked into their platform and how easy at least it appeared to be for help desks and engineers to extract end user metrics that are truly actionable. So if you're not familiar with NetBeez, it's an application that you install a client or client, and it will monitor different things that you want it to monitor. So it can monitor a wireless signal, and this is to an end user's laptop. It can monitor your path connectivity to a cloud application or to an application internal to your organization across a VPN, and give you metrics on how well that's performing. So if your wireless is bad at their house and they're saying, oh, no, this is my home network problem, but they don't know it's a home network problem, built into the application, they can walk around and say, oh, here's my signal strength. Or let's say they're having an ISP related issue. So they put a little plan, a roadmap up there that showed some of the other features that they had introduced in the past. And two of them actually stood out that I want to talk about. And in version 9, they introduced ISP tagging and grouping, which I think is just an absolutely amazing feature for helping work from home users. So let's say you've got your work from home deployment, because there are a lot of people working from home these days, and people start complaining the network is slow. Well, okay, let's start looking into that. Help desk or whoever helps those users starts looking into that. What they find is that AT&T is slow, or they find that Comcast is slow. And now with the platform, you're looking at not just, okay, these people are slow coming across the internet, but being able to group and identify them based on their ISP. That's amazing. I can't count how many times during, we're still work from home, but during the higher points in COVID, where I was on AT&T and everyone around me, all of my coworkers, they're all on Comcast, and we all live in the same geographical area, and I'm not having any problems. But my director and my boss and the other directors and the other managers are, oh no, we have a problem. It's at headquarters. It's the VPN head end. It's being saturated. It's this, it's that. And everything's fine for me because I'm on AT&T DSL. Thank you, old school technology. So just being able to sort through those things to where the help desk doesn't have to ask the question and the end user doesn't really have to know who their service provider is, although that's a pretty easy question. But being able to break things down like that and give that to the help desk so that two things happen. The end user doesn't have to know how to give you good information, and that can be a challenge. And then sometimes on help desks, they have too much going on. They don't ask the right questions. They don't know to ask the right questions. So NetBeez can get some of those metrics out of there so that, hey, you don't have to answer that question anymore. I got to stop hitting the table. It makes my camera shake. The other thing that they put in there that I thought was also pretty good, and this came out in version 10, was gateway testing. I mean, you just never know what kind of router an end user might have at home. There's some services out there, like, again, I'm AT&T DSL. Yes, I'll say it again, AT&T DSL. And I have no choice but to use their provided gateway. It's just, you have to use it. But if you've got a cable provider, something like a Comcast, you can sub in your own modem and stop paying them that monthly rent. And how much did they spend on it? How nice is it? Does it support DOCSIS higher than DOCSIS 3.0? What kind of connectivity do they have? Is it a cheap modem? Is it some off brand that you've never heard of? So you can start gleaning some metrics there as well, just to figure out, hey, is it the gateway? So something that they didn't get into. So pivoting a little bit here, and they called it coming next, are integrations, upcoming integrations, or just upcoming in the platform. Two I found interesting. One was IP version 6. Like, they are just now adding IP version 6. And this isn't about NetBeez and why isn't it there yet. It's just more of a, IP6 is hard and it's taking some time to implement. And it will probably eventually get there. But it was just, okay, IPv6 is coming. And then ServiceNow incidents. And they didn't dive into this. I sort of pinged them on Twitter to see if they would talk a little bit more about it. And I believe I asked in the room, but I could not imagine getting a ServiceNow incident for every time an end user is having a problem. I'm certain there are ways in there for them to cut them out or put thresholds in there before a ticket gets created. But that was the first thing that my mind snapped to, was like, wow, that's going to generate a lot of tickets. So something else that I asked, and they gave an okay answer on this, and I'll give you the answer and then I'll give you my feedback on the answer, was that you've got this amazing tool here on the end user laptop that can generate all of this metric data and feed it back. But is it possible to leverage that in a way to where the end user doesn't even try to generate a ticket? They get a pop-up that says, oh, we've noticed that your internet gateway is non-responsive or it's slow. Or we've noticed that you are slow going to the things that are being monitored, and this this isn't your IT department. We've already alerted the IT departments. They're aware of this. You don't need to put a ticket into this or in for this. And the answer they gave, I suppose, is acceptable. They said, well, we're developing this new API, and with APIs, all things are possible. Which, yeah, that's true. With APIs, all things are possible. But then you've got to be geared up for that, and your department has to be geared up to develop that and to integrate it into whatever is possible. So if I had some good feedback for NetBeez, it might be to come up with a way that you already have to set the metrics. So that's the way that the platform works is, well, it tracks your metrics, and hopefully that's where the ServiceNow comes in. It's after a metric's been breached for so long. But give the end users a page that they can see, like, oh no, this is what's going on, or give them just a way to extract that, not even extract, but just see that on their own. And then, you train them. Hey, before you put a ticket in, make sure you look at this. Make sure all the checkboxes are green. And, if one of them turns yellow or red, there's a way that they can acknowledge that the help desk or the services team or networking team has acknowledged that, and that's something that's being worked on. You don't need to put a ticket in. But something like that, I think, would help give the platform a new view that helps the end user to not put in those additional tickets and just to generate that erroneous information. And then I had another question for them that was roughly based around SD-WAN. So all the SD-WAN providers out there have some sort of service monitoring built into it where, hey, a Microsoft team, you got two ISPs, and Microsoft Teams works better over Path 1 instead of Path 2, but Path 2 works better for Dropbox, so make your decision there. I think it would be cool if there was a way that NetBeez could somehow play in that arena to give the SD-WAN providers an alternative viewpoint or some secondary, tertiary data that they can add into their metrics that they're generating on their own. And the answer to that was, again, with APIs, all things are possible. We hope that SD-WAN vendors find a way to do this on their own. But if there were some spare cycles in there at NetBeez and they had a way to sort of kickstart that, or come up with just even a proof of concept where they create a connector that can help do some informing. Like I know Viptela has a pretty pervasive API, like play in that somehow. I think that would be really cool. But either way, that's all I have for NetBeez. Again, I was super impressed. I appreciate their licensing model. It's definitely more straightforward than competitors. And it just, truthfully, it was very refreshing. It energized me for the day to keep me going. So the second presenter was PathSolutions, and I've always heard of PathSolutions. So I've been to quite a few Cisco Lives and other conferences, and I've always seen PathSolutions around, but I never really stopped to evaluate them. And today I had no choice but to evaluate them, and it's hard. It is very hard to evaluate them because they do so much. And after we got maybe like 10 minutes into the presentation, I had to pause and say, hold on. How have you put this much in this platform? How did you get here? Because they're not a monitoring platform. They're not a diagramming platform. They're not a networking mapping platform. They're not a quarantining platform. They're not a SD-WAN performance platform. They're not because they are all of that. They really, I'm still, it still boggles my mind with everything that they've tried to put in there. And it seems to be all in there, and it works. And I know I'm saying all, but it's because there were really so many different tools inside there. PathSolutions, the way that it started to break down felt like maybe 15 products all put in one. And I don't want that to come off as a negative thing, because there are some utilities out there that try to be everything to everyone, and they do a so-so job at it. But and typically why that, let me expand on that. Why that works is because it's so broad. Like they're touching too many different systems and trying to bring it all into one platform. But PathSolutions was network specific and network only. And they even had a really cool thing in there that was costing, like literal dollar amount costing. Well, how much does this cost? And you can see what the cost of that circuit is, or it was like, wow, that's a cool thing to put in there. I don't know of another software that does that, outside of Excel. So it's hard for me to cherry pick any one of their built-in features to really talk about, or even a handful of them, because there are so many. So I would encourage you to check out PathSolutions on your own, and just go to the site and look through all the different things that they're able to do, and then make your assessment from there. But it's a Swiss Army. It's one of the really big Swiss Army knives that has a ton of different tools in it. There were two things that in there. I know, so it was hard for me to cherry pick, but there are two things. Well, really one, and then a comment that I had, or a question that I had asked them. They have a NetAlly integration, which, if you're not familiar with NetAlly, they used to be NetScout, which used to be Fluke, and Fluke still does exist, but the network testing, that like the handheld network testers, which, full transparency, I love NetAlly, and I loved NetScout, and I loved Fluke, but the handheld network tester. And there's the $10,000 version, and I promise I'll be quick. This is not going to turn into too much of a NetAlly thing. The $10,000 one, the super high-end tester is really nice, but they got this little $400 tool that gives you CDP information. It gives you power over Ethernet, does some basic tests. And it doesn't have a screen on it, which is how they keep the price so cheap. So you just grab your cell phone, connect to the access point built in, and then you get all of the information right there. But the thing that Path has integrated with is, when you run a test on one of these NetAlly devices, it uploads to Link Live, which is their cloud service where all that information is stored. And Path is the only company that I have ever seen actually integrate with that data and bring more life to it. which I know that's terribly generic, and I'm not going to go too much deeper, but just the fact that Path thought to integrate to NetAlly really shows that they're trying to jam as many networking tools under the hood as possible. And I just thought that was really cool. So the question, one of the questions that I had asked them, and I think I understood the intent of the response was, who is this product for? And okay, so it's for network engineers. Well, what company is this for? And the reason I asked them that question was there was a point there they were talking about, well, your company doesn't need CCIEs. They can put PathSolutions in, and you get that intelligence that a CCIE caliber engineer would bring to your environments. And that was the side that I wanted to dig into a little bit more is, well, what if you do have CCIEs? What if you are large enough to have a very well tiered out networking team? And the response, which I can get into, was that, well, if you have those sorts of folks in your department, then you don't want them wasting time on tracking down flapping ports or errors that are increasing, or just like the minutia that comes in the general day-to-day operations of a networking team, that you can push some of those tasks down a level in your support tree, because you take that sort of that CCIE knowledge and give other engineers at varying levels a way to interact with it. Which, I mean, I get it. I thought that was a pretty good answer. I hope one day to be able to do a deeper dive into the platform, like a hands-on demo with it, because again, it so many things put in there, so many things. The last presentation came from Gluware, and if you're not familiar with Glueware, it's basically in short version automation platform. There's a lot of stuff like that out there today. The thing that Glueware really tries to do, which I think is just desperately needed these days when we start talking about automation, is that they seek to make automation easier for engineers who aren't network engineers, who aren't interested in becoming Python developers. And that's, if you talk to any organization right now, any team who, to where the team or the business isn't demanding or creating these automation forward groups, they don't know how to get started. Like it's a full hard stop for a lot of places, because you're going to tell a small network engineering team that on top of all of their other responsibilities, they have to become Python developers too, and learn Ansible, and learn just everything that you would need to develop a robust automation platform for their business. Because that's really the problem, is automation isn't a bag of chips that you open and now you've got automation. Automation has to take into mind the business goals, your whole business. It has to take into account the team dynamics, the individuals, the tolerance for absorbing. If you're not network, or if you're not automation and programming forward, like, so now I got to spin up a server, a Linux server. Well, the network engineers don't want to maintain a Linux server, and then the tooling that exists inside of it. So that's where Glueware tries to step in, and they showed us two things that I thought were pretty interesting. One was it's up and coming. They call it NRPA, and I'm not going to go. It was network robotic. I wrote down NRPA and then I completely blanked out on what it stands for. But essentially, they co-opted, they adopted the RPA, robotic process automation. I believe that's what it is. So then it's network robotic process automation. And what you can do, and it's really cool. So think back. If you've seen any like the elementary school type automations that are not automations, sorry, the tools that are using to teach elementary students how to get into programming, it's very drag and drop. Like, here's an if then shape, and then you put different things inside of it, and then you can graphically drag and drop a programmatic experience or a programmatic method. They have tried to, well, they've not tried, they have brought out a method for creating programs that is, it's drag and drop, and it's not drag, drop, and done. There are still little bits that would require configuration. So let's say you want to create an automation that's going to be based on all Cisco devices at a specific facility. You can drag sort of that selector and say, hey, if device is at facility and vendor is Cisco, then do the next thing. And they call it no code. I it it's no code, but it's not no variable. So you still have to so you'll have to understand variables, which I think variables are relatively easy to understand. You know, site equals headquarters, site equals warehouse. But what it doesn't do for you is teach you how to have a programmatic method, a programmatic approach to developing something, which I think most engineers, network engineers, are able to adapt that process, because I mean programming is very logic based, you know, if this, then that. So it shouldn't be too big of a leap, but you still have to know how to put that together. So I was really impressed with it, because I think that can bring the barrier of entry down to a point where you can get engineers who want to do it but can't necessarily invest the time to become Python developers, to get them to start putting automation into their environment. So they have some demos available, and the NRPA isn't in their trial yet. I believe they said that's going to be in the next couple weeks here. So as soon as that's in the trial, I'm definitely signing up and checking it out, because I just, it hurts right now that engineers who want to do more with, and the reason I say this hurts is because I have very personal experience here of wanting to do more and talking with engineers who want to do more, but they just can't, they just don't have the time for it. So I love that this is their approach, and I'm really eager to put my hands on it and play with it. So the second thing that they showed us was, they call it the Gluware Lab, and they called this low code, and I'm going to disagree with them. It's less code. I will definitely grant them that it is less code than if you are just a Python writing something in Python, but it is not low code. There is still a lot of coding involved, and my reason for saying that is, let's say you don't have something like Glueware and you're doing it all on your own, and that's 100%, and you're a network engineer who's, I don't know about programming, and you're at 0%. So even if it's 50% less code, that's still a lot of code. So my that's just a marketing term gripe, calling it low code. But what I really liked in there is that, so you've got an API integration between two systems, right? And all you've done, and I mean just bare minimum API integration, like you've pointed system A at system B's API. You said, go get some stuff. So that's a lot. Now you have to programmatically figure out what to do with that API, because pointing one system at another system is not that difficult, but then how do you make use of that? And in the demo, they pointed to ServiceNow, and this is what I questioned them on, and they helped explain, was that you guys already integrate with ServiceNow. Like, that was on the second slide. You said, we've got a an integration into ServiceNow. But here we are on the back end saying, oh, well, if you've got something custom, something that we've not done before, this is where Gluware Labs comes into place and you can make that connection. Like, well, hold on. If you're already integrating ServiceNow up here, why do I have to fire up Labs to do more integration into ServiceNow? And the way that they explained it, which made more sense after they explained it, was that ServiceNow is a beast. And there are a lot of applications like ServiceNow. They're just these hulking applications, which isn't an indictment of the application. But what ends up happening with those is, and this is the way it should happen. And I went through this in healthcare. I spent a lot of time in healthcare. And Epic, one of the largest EMRs over there, what they do is they don't say, here's how it works. They say, we're going to adapt the product to work for the business processes that match your existing environment. And that's where Gluware Lab came in. So even though you've made the connection to ServiceNow and there are certain things in there that might be universal, but when you start getting into the business processes, like change management, what does your change management environment look like? How does a change management request go through and not just how does it go through ServiceNow, but how does it go through ServiceNow in a way that matches your organizational structure or your team structure or whatever it may be? Again, that's where Gluware Labs come in, that lets you take the basic automation and then bring more of the business sense, the business intelligence that you need to make that integration actually work for your departments or your team, your organization, whatever. So looking at it from that aspect, it made a lot more sense why they featured ServiceNow and not just some rando application that I hadn't heard of before. And I can definitely appreciate that, because that honestly is the truth. And that speaks to the whole problem with automation as a whole, is I can show you how to change a code, programmatically change some code on a router using Python. Like that's fine. But then how do you extrapolate that into a process that your team can adapt and can build into your workflow? So I was very impressed with Glueware by the end. Like I already said, that I'm really eager to kick the tires on it and to play around with it a little more. I am, again, waiting until that NRPA makes it into the demo platform, because that drag and drop thing, it looked pretty slick. And if you didn't see it in there's a bunch of demos out there. If you Google around for it, I mean, I think you should check out the demo they did today with us. But if you find some others, that's fine as well. But yeah, Glueware, really like what they're doing. So that was it. That was the three vendors that talked to us today. I was super excited to talk to all three of them. It was definitely different from day one. So we had Juniper and Arista yesterday, and Netris. And kind of just talking more about Juniper and Arista at the top. It's like, all right, we're talking about networks. And today we got to talk more about some ancillary applications that work with the network, and just do all kinds of different stuff. So today was fabulous. I can't believe that it's day 2. And what I mean by that is it feels like it's day 4. We're in these sessions all day, and then having conversations. And even when we break from this, when I'm done recording this video and go catch up with the rest of the delegates, this is what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be continuing to talk about more topics. So it's for network engineers, and not even network engineers, even just network adjacent professionals out there, apply to be a field day delegate. They are always looking for them. And this has been one of the most professionally rewarding events that I've gone to. I've been to countless Cisco Lives, and Cisco Lives are a lot of fun, and you learn a lot there. This is different, not bad different, very good different. So apply to be a delegate. Tom will love to see it. So we got one more day, and I'll be recording one more video at the end of tomorrow. again, same thing. Try to get it out within the same day, but at least before the beginning of the next. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day wherever you are. Take care.